If you're anything like me, you love running that much that you would rather do it with no aches, no pains, no stiffness, no soreness, no injury. And in order for that to happen, then you need to focus on three things: your mobility, your stability, and your strength. So I'm starting training for the Chicago Marathon in a few weeks' time. And what I thought I would do is I would create a series of videos that work on how I strengthen and create greater mobility and stability in lots of different areas of my body, different joints, different muscles, and then share that all with you. And I'm going to start here today with the ankles. And by the way, if the video adds value, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, help get us to 100k, but also just help us be able to help you more.
Right, think of the ankle joint as the first responder. It's the first joint to deal with the stresses of running, and there's so much information to process. When the foot hits the floor, the ankle joint has to cushion the impact, it has to stabilize the movement, it has to help the foot move through its action, and it has to use some of the energy stored from the impact to help propel the foot forwards. And a strong, mobile and stable ankle joint means less pressure up the kinetic chain, like in the knee joint and in the hip joint.
Now we know how the ankle works, and we know that we need to work on stability, mobility and strength. It's time to get into the gym. But before we go there, just because I said I'm starting training for Chicago, I want to let you know about a marathon training group that we've started that is guided, interactive and community based. We had 100 people in the first group, so if you're interested in signing up for the guided marathon training with us to train towards your autumn marathons, then all of the information will be in the description. Gym now. And now we're in the gym, I'm going to give you the 5 exercises that I like and I think hit each of the things we've just been talking about. But the first thing I want to recommend is take your shoes off. Because if you take your shoes off, you enhance the proprioception. And if you don't know what proprioception is, it's just really your body's way of feeling your feet and the ground, so knowing where you are. And the first of the 5 exercises I'm going to give you, and actually I'm also going to give you alternatives to this exercise if it's too difficult in the early days, is eccentric single leg calf lowers. And if that sounds like a mouthful, it is. But let me just quickly explain. Eccentric, if concentric is the muscle shortening under tension, this is my bicep, what is little is left of it. Eccentric is lengthening under tension. So actually, you're getting a lengthened muscle, but also a strengthened muscle. And the way we do this is we just lower our calves. Let me show you what I mean. If I was at home, I would just use the first stair of my steps. But all you do is you step up onto a step and then raising yourself up onto your tiptoes using mainly the leg you're not going to use. You then lift one leg and then you lower yourself down slowly until your heel drops over the edge. And if you look at my hands here, right and left, you'll see that I'm not actually using them to bear any weight, I'm just using them to stabilize myself while I do it. For this exercise, I probably would work towards getting to 3 times 10 on each leg, but maybe start with 1 times 10 on each leg, or maybe 3 times 5 on each leg. But you're aiming to work towards 3 times 10 on each leg, maybe over time, so add 1 or 2 per week. And an alternative to start, if that is too aggressive, then calf raises, so that you're just lowering yourself back down onto the ground, maybe 3 lots of 10. That's your starting point. And if you're wondering why a lot of the stuff I suggest today is actually single leg, that's because if there is a muscle imbalance anywhere around your body, then single leg can train one leg and then the other leg, whereas if you do both legs at the same time, you might not readdress the muscle imbalance. And the second exercise, and again we're focusing mainly on mobility, is what I would call the Thai sit. I know Vlad Excel calls it the Vietnamese sit, and it looks a little bit like this. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can have your feet facing slightly outwards and come down almost into a squat position, but go fully low and sit here and rock backwards and forwards, just gently side to side. We're working on our ankle and the rest of our body stability. I would aim to hold this one in the early days for about 30 seconds, maybe 3 lots of 30 seconds. Or the other version is legs together, feet together, and this one's difficult and in the early days very tough. You rock backwards, go backwards,
and then come forwards again. So you're rocking backwards, really working this joint here at the front of the ankle. I can really feel that. In the early days with this one, I found it really difficult, so to adapt it, I went backwards and then pushed myself forwards and came forwards like this. But eventually you can get to here, and maybe you're doing 30 seconds of this.
So those are the two exercises that I like for mobility. Now I'm going to take you through some of the exercises I like for stability. So if you look at the structure of the ankle and the lower leg, you've got the big muscles that you can physically see, and then you've got the deeper lying stabilizing muscles that you can't see but are as important. And the first exercise I want to take you through is something that various people call duck walks, penguin walks. All it really is you're walking on your heels, pulling your toes up so that you're working the muscle on the front of the leg, which is called the tibialis anterior. So you walk like this. I would suggest that you try to build up to 45 seconds, maybe start with 20 seconds of walking on that heel. And if that's working the muscle on the front of the leg, we want to work the muscle on the back of the leg as well, so we do similar. We walk on our tiptoes, which works the calf muscles, the soleus and the gastrocnemius. Start with 20 seconds 3 times and work your way towards 45 seconds 3 times. And again, if those are a little bit too difficult in the early days, I'm going to give you some easier alternatives to start with. And if you want to change up the calf walks, the tiptoe walk, and work the calves in a static way, then just raise up onto your tiptoes and try and hold that for 20 to 30 seconds, maybe 3 times. And likewise, if we want to work our tibialis anterior, the muscle on the front of the leg, then instead of duck walks or penguin walks, we're going to do something called toe taps, one at a time for maybe 20 to 30 seconds. A bit more stability work, and one that I really like, and I'm going to be honest, I nicked it from James Dunn with his permission. And if you want to learn more about all things running, definitely go check James's channel out. But I like this one. For this one, stability, you interlock your hands, stand on one leg, and then you're going to spell out capital letters, the alphabet. And it just puts you a little bit off balance whilst you're doing it, enough to make those stabilizer muscles on your ankle work. So work your way all the way through the alphabet. I nearly forgot what was next after F. And you're really working hard with those muscles that you don't see in the ankle. And if that's a little bit too difficult in the early days, again, I'm going to give you that alternative just as a gateway into those types of movements. Is you still stand on one leg, but this time all you're going to do is replicate the running action. So knee up, arm up, and then back, forwards, back, forwards. Maybe do this 10 times on this leg. This way you're just moving in one plane, but you can still see my ankle's working hard to stabilize. And you know what? Even in the early days, if that's too hard, there is absolutely no shame in just standing on one leg for 30 seconds. You'll still feel the ankle working to try and stabilize you. Okay, we've worked on mobility, we've worked on stability, and now we're going to work on building some elastic strength, that kind of ability of our foot and ankle joint to hit the ground, absorb the shock, but then use some of the elasticity to push us back off and propel us forwards. And this is quite a good fun one. It's side jumps into forward back jumps, single leg. So all you do, you can either put a sock on the ground, you can put something on the ground. Luckily I've got these lines on the ground, and I'm just going to stand on one leg and I'm going to jump from side to side is the aim. And then every now and then I'm going to jump forwards and backwards, side to side. I would suggest for this one, you really only need to start with something like 10 to 15 seconds of side to side and forwards to backwards, and build up over a lot of weeks, because it's quite an aggressive one and you can certainly feel the leg working straight away. To take that a step back, what you can do is, instead of just hopping, you can alternate legs. So you can jump from your left to your right, side to side, or forwards and backwards. Still good enough, still working on what we want, but it just takes a little bit of pressure off the Achilles, the ankle in the early days. So these are not an exhaustive list of exercises for your ankle, by no means, but they're the ones I kind of like that hit all the things that we want to work on for our ankle flexibility as in mobility, our stability, and the elastic strength of the musculature around the ankle. And if you do those 5 things regularly, you can't improve in 1 or 2 weeks, but you keep doing them in some part of your routine, then you are going to dramatically reduce your risk of injury and speed yourself up in the process. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, then consider subscribing, and if it brought you value, then I think this one's going to bring you value too, which is the 5 exercises that will bulletproof your running. Hope you enjoy. See you Sunday.